I salute all who are part of We Shall Speak campaign all over our country. I am Stan Swami speaking from Ranchi, Jharkhand. Let us start reminding ourselves of what the African peace activist Desmond Tutu warned his countrymen. I quote, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." End quote. I believe we Indians are at the crossroad of choosing justice and truth versus injustice and untruth. Unfortunately, the great majority of us, the educated middle class in particular, have chosen to be neutral. It is then the task of those who have clearly taken the side of the deprived masses to speak up. I have been journeying and accompanying the indigenous Adivasi people in Jharkhand during the past 3 decades. I wish to speak of what is happening to them. We all know the central Indian states comprising Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha is the Adivasi belt. It is also the mineral belt insofar as 70% of all minerals in the country lie in the land of the Adivasi. You name it, we have it. From coal to gold and diamond. It has been the grazing ground of the Indian state and industrialists. Millions and millions of tons of minerals have been excavated and taken away, but the Adivasi people in whose land lie all this wealth have had no share, a situation of unjust deprivation. However, people are waking up and demanding their constitutional, legal, and judicial rights. Of late, some laws have been passed for their benefit, but lo and behold, few of them have been implemented in letter and spirit. I wish to mention some of these laws and judicial judgments. Number one, the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, PESA, of 1996, which was a fruit of long-drawn disenchantment and struggle of Adivasi people and their political representatives, and which for the first time recognized the fact the Adivasi communities in India have had a rich social and cultural tradition of self-governance. It outlined the composition and functioning of the Gram Sabha so that nothing in the village takes place without the knowledge and consent of the Gram Sabha. Whereas the reality is this act of parliament has deliberately been left unimplemented. It means that the ruling class does not want Adivasi people to self-govern themselves. Number two, Forest Rights Act of 2006. Jal Jungle Zameen, as we know, are the basis of the economic and social life of the Adivasi people. Of particular importance is the traditional rights in the forests have been infringed upon systematically over the decades. At long last, the government came to the realization that a historic injustice has been done to the Adivasi and other traditional forest dwellers. To correct this anomaly, it enacted this act, whereas the reality is far from desirable. From 2006 to 2016 of its operation, about 41 lakh applications were made all over the country for the title deeds over the land where they have lived and worked, of which 18 lakhs were approved, 3 lakhs held in suspense, and 20 lakhs were rejected. That means half of all those who applied have been rejected. A few months ago, a bombshell from the Supreme Court fell on forest-dwelling communities when it ordered that all those families whose petitions have been rejected should be evacuated. The outburst all over the country was such that the Supreme Court has agreed to review its order. Number 3, the Land Acquisition Act of 2013. Displacement and land alienation of Adivasi people has been and is a vexing problem. The Land Acquisition Law of 1894 of the colonial rule was kept intact for more than a century, as a result of which 6 crore population have been displaced for various projects. Of them, 40% are Adivasis. Only 25% of total displaced have been resettled. Hardly any have been rehabilitated because that involves social and cultural dimensions. People are reaching a state of mind that enough is enough and have started to protest and resist displacement increasingly in more and more organized ways. It was this predicament which forced the UPA government to pass a fresh Land Acquisition Act of 2013, replacing the old colonial law. This law contains some favorable elements for farmers in general and Adivasi people in particular. The provisions of the law are there, whereas the reality is different. Hardly a year had passed after the promulgation of the Act, and the state governments were rather reluctantly initiating the process of implementation. The new party which came to power in mid-2014 at the center sabotaged the salient provisions of the Act and brought in a land acquisition ordinance, bypassing the parliament. Wholesale resistance to this ordinance at popular level as well as in the legislature took place all over the country. Finally, the government was forced to give up its efforts to amend the law. Number 4, owner of the land is also the owner of subsoil mineral. This is a Supreme Court judgment of 2013. The court, in a path-breaking judgment, has said, I quote, "We are of the opinion that there is nothing in the law which declares that all mineral wealth, subsoil rights vest in the state. On the other hand, the ownership of subsoil mineral wealth should normally follow the ownership of the land." End quote. Thus, the largest democracy in the world had to wait for well over 60 years to affirm the natural law that the owner of the land is also the owner of subsoil minerals. At least it opens the way for Adivasi communities to claim ownership on minerals in their land. To conclude, Adivasi people are speaking up. They are also paying the price for doing so. Thousands of them are in jail, but they resonate. We shall speak. Let us all join them and shout from rooftops, we shall speak. Thank you.